You see, something's going to happen.
What? What's going to happen?
Something wonderful.
What?
I understand how you feel. You see, it's all very clear to me now.
Welcome to the Occult Rejects. This episode, I got Cherry Parra with us again. She was with us before. We covered the book, The Left-Hand Path of Tarot, Breaking Taboos, Confronting Shadows, and Achieving Self-Love. She came on the show. She talked about it and the way that she looks at tarot. Highly suggest to go check out that episode after this one and check out her book. But before we introduce her, let me introduce Judith. We got the loon. What is going on, Judith? How are you?
Hi, thank you for having me, Jerry. I am so happy to see you come back. You can reach me at YouTube and on X as the Loon. And if you want to follow my author page, it's also on Instagram on Judith under Judith Swanson. I can't wait for today's discussion.
Thank you. And what about you mentioned the YouTube, correct?
No? Yes.
Okay,
yes.
all right. So I spaced out. Just making sure. Thank you very much, Judith. I appreciate you making it always. And Cherry, please let everybody know what your deal is. Tell them about your book or whatever you'd like to promote, please.
Well, thank you. I'm so happy to be back on here. Thanks for the space. Yes, I just published a book on Weiser Books called The Left-Hand Path of Tarot. And it's available anywhere books are sold. You can order it now. And I have been a tarotist for over around a decade and a half. And I'm also a witch, a left-hand path witch, obviously. And you can find me on Instagram and Threads at cherry_red_tarot. And you'll also find all of my links there. I have basically and mainly like a Patreon. And also if you're interested in reading, you can book from there. And I'm Mexican. I live in Mexico, and I'm very proud and very happy to be here.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you very much for coming on again. Really had a blast last time, and I'm sure it'll be great this time. I guess what I wanted to ask, you might have probably covered it in the first time you were on, slightly. Mm-hmm. But I did want to ask, I guess, what was your exposure to Santa Muerte? Was that something you started researching in, or were you kind of exposed to it? Just wondering how you came across that.
Mm-hmm. It's everywhere here in Mexico because it's where it originated. So to be quite honest, I'm not exactly sure when was the first time that I came upon the cult of Santa Muerte. It was probably on media or the news, or maybe just on the street, because she's literally everywhere. You'll find people wearing pendants of her, people wearing her on t-shirts. You will see if you go to occult stores here where they sell things for witchcraft and such. You will find a lot of effigies, statues, candles with Santa Muerte, and you just get curious and maybe you learn a little bit more about it. There have been a lot of stories also in national news about her, and it's pretty much already permeated a lot of aspects of Mexican culture. Even those who are not believers, they know. Have a very general idea of what the cult is and what she represents. But of course, there are, as in most, or I would say all aspects of belief, there are different ways to approach, every practice, every deity or entity. There's a lot of versions, and none of them is necessarily valid or invalid or true versus untrue. So as a Mexican, you just know, and the connotation on media and the news is unfortunately largely negative, but I think that in the past 5 or 10 years, it's really beginning to shift a lot.
One thing I did want to ask, I think you kind of even said how there might be a little bit differences. Would you say like maybe in different like towns or areas there might be a little bit of a different flair on the idea? Maybe smaller like things that kind of go along with the local stuff.
There are subtle variations because I think that the first recollections of something similar, like to Santa Muerte, were you can trace it back to the 1940s. Maybe in like I know that it happened like in Veracruz, which is like on one of the coastal areas in Mexico. And in Veracruz, you have like this place that is very famous nationwide, and I think even internationally. The name is Catemaco, and it's kind of like if Mexico had like a witchcraft capital, that would be it. Because there's a lot of like brujos, and there are different variants and all kinds of like witchcraft that is practiced there. And it has a lot of like, there's a lot of stuff like urban legends and like scary stories and things. Some of them have truth behind them, some not. But it's like a place that is very known because a lot of people, some of them like powerful politicians and like people in Mexican entertainment business, they go there to get some work done, like spiritual work and brujeria and that sort of thing. But like also, you know, just regular people. And over there, I think that there was a witch in the like mid to late 60s then. His name was Mateo, and I don't know which type of witchcraft he practiced, but apparently he was the one who first received like a visit from what would who would later be known as Santa Muerte. And at first it was like a vision while he was doing this ritual, you know. And afterwards, you know, well, here in Mexico, like Catholicism is very interspersed with these types of beliefs. So he went, after the vision was over, he called upon a priest from like a local priest because Santa Muerte had asked like to be like not worshipped, but she was like saying that she would be there to help anyone who called for her, particularly like for things that had to do with having like a peaceful death, or to, you know, get well if they were sick, things like that. Gave him a series of like instructions on how to approach her. And after the vision evaporated, there was kind of like what they say, like an image left on one of the walls where he worshipped. So he went and got this priest, but of course the priest was horrified because he's a Catholic priest. So he said that that was demonic and that he would have no part in it and that was not of God, blah, blah, blah. But Mateo went ahead and he said, well, it's okay if the Catholic Church won't admit or won't help me. And he started, you know, this practice worshiping Santa Muerte, and gradually people found out about it through word of mouth, and it started, you know, growing and growing until it eventually reached Mexico City, also some parts of the northern side of Mexico. And the thing that makes Santa Muerte kind of like your question was about if like it varied according to the regions. I would say that maybe it has a different type of audience depending on of which part of the country you are in, because people like in the north of Mexico, of course, they are like in the border, and they deal with a lot of maybe threats from like organized crime and things like that, or they are involved in maybe some of these activities, or they want protection against their enemies, things like that. So it takes on like a different flavor there, kind of like more for against enemies. But if you go to Mexico City, where there's like an altar, the first like really like nationwide and internationally known altar to Santa Muerte in Tepito that was established, that altar, by a lady named Enriqueta. I don't remember if her last name was Romo or what is her last name, but she put a statue of Santa Muerte like in the garage of her house and opened it to the public. And that is where, like, I think most of the people go and pay their respects to Santa Muerte. The flavor there, if you want to call it that, is a lot more like inclusive. It's not limited to like necessarily people who are involved in organized crime or who are cops or who work in these types of like dangerous jobs. They are like your everyday people, you know, business people, parents, people from every walk of life basically go and worship Santa Muerte there, leave offerings, things like that. And I would say that maybe if we have to like categorize it, if you go north, it's kind of like a bit more connected with like danger and crime and things like that. If you go to Mexico City, it's like more inclusive. Outsiders also, a lot of like gay people who work like sex workers and things like that, they go and worship there as well. It's super inclusive. And if you go to Veracruz, maybe it has like a little bit of a more serious tone as far as, you know, people who go to Catemaco there, it's usually for specific like rituals and like petitions that are like of a certain level of commitment. So that would be kind of like maybe the three vibes that you would get, you know, from Santa Muerte here in Mexico. But there's a lot of other places where she is worshipped that maybe don't have as much of a visible presence online or on the media, but I'm sure that they exist. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I have a quick question, because here in the Western world, when you say Santa Muerte, people think she's associated with death, but from how you explained it, it sounds like she's also associated with healing and protection.
Mhm.
So what exactly would she be? Just a patron of those three, or is there more too?
The thing is that the way that we see death is death and life are the same thing. And I don't know how familiar you are with, like, in Mexico, even though it's a very misogynistic culture in many ways, but there's this contradiction. And if you go into the houses of the average Mexican, if you look to the media and culturally, like our history and all that, it's a matriarchy in many ways. So when the Spanish colonized the indigenous Mexicans, what they did was to like fuse the Virgin Mary with the local feminine deities. So Santa Muerte kind of like, I think, sprung as a reaction to against that many centuries later, you know, because in Mexico, death has always not only been respected and revered and celebrated and worshipped. It has, like, it's part of our daily lives, and we understand we don't really see a difference at the end of the day when it comes to, you know, life and death. It's part of like one same cycle. It's like life and existence in its totality. So the way that we talk about death and relate to it is very familiar. It's like someone we've known our whole lives, even if we are like not devotees of Santa Muerte, but it's always there. I mean, we're not afraid to talk about it because it's very different from here than, you know, from in the United States, because you have like a different kind of religious thinking that plays the foundations of the United States. It's kind of like more like evangelistic, and it was very different. And over here, it was like the brutality of Catholicism, you know, the Inquisition and all that. But we already were like really hardcore here. I mean, the rituals and the beliefs that we had here, and like death was looked like in the face. And in the US, like this never happened, and there was no fusion of traditions over there, and over here there was like a complete fusion of like cultures and beliefs. So it's I wouldn't say that she's a patron of this and this and this specifically, because I know of people here in Mexico who will go to her for like pretty much anything and everything. When you go to some of these like occult esoteric stores here, you will find effigies and candles for Santa Muerte, for health, for like abundance, for love. You will find like for protection, for like legal justice, people who have like cases in court, or relatives who are in prison, whatever. I mean, there's a candle for that, so it's not like she's devoted specifically to one thing. She covers many things. Yeah.
Do you think that part right there, her covering many things, could even be a little bit of like kind of like the Mary's Catholic like influence, or not so much influence, but like the other version? You know what I'm saying? Because you go to Mary for anything. So I could see that like maybe crossing over.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you still like the average Mexican is very Guadalupano, which is like, devoted to the Virgin of Guadalupe. But there are so many others, particularly in recent times, that that figure like of the benevolent mother no longer cuts it, because you have people who are like on the fringes of society, who are fighting like to stay alive, whether because what they do for a living is dangerous, or maybe they make very little money, or they are, struggling with really difficult things, alcoholism, drug dependence, that sort of thing. And I think that Santa Muerte comes across as very universal, and therefore non-judgmental. There are some traits, of course, of the connection with Catholicism, as far as like some people do like incorporate her into sort of like masses, and they say Catholic prayers to her in her honor. And like there's no rule book. It's you can't say this is allowed and this is not allowed, because everyone here makes their belief and their like practice and their faith their own. But it's kind of like more inclusive and more universal, because even if, let's say, if someone didn't have a mother figure, or if their mother figure was very lacking or very negative, Santa Muerte is like truly universal, because she connects with us all, because she was there at the beginning and she will be there at the end, regardless of anything we do. So I think that alone is what makes her like a very good alternative for people who are looking for a protector that is completely accepting, and someone who still has that mothering sense, but and she manifested like as like with feminine energy from the beginning to this witch that I mentioned. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing with Santa Muerte. That's why she's like quickly, if not replacing like the Virgen de Guadalupe, aka the Virgin Mary Mexican version, maybe she's not replacing fully, but she is like competing like on very similar levels of like endearment and respect and attention.
Thank you. You mentioned something about Guadalupe. Not to get off the topic. Is that the same one that I think it's like a painting or whatever, where now they're finding there might be like music in there and there's actually like stuff within her eyes? I had covered something a long time ago about like this painting of Guadalupe. There's some wild stuff in that thing. I don't know if that's the same thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm a bit skeptical, because anything that comes from the Catholic Church directly and that is kind of sponsored by them, I'm very skeptical of. So yeah, I know that there have been like lots of studies done on that figure and that sort of thing. But I basically see it as an instrument of like colonial manipulation and mind control.
Gotcha.
So it has taken a life of its own because of the faith of like so many millions and millions of Mexicans for centuries. So now it has like a different type of value, and I wouldn't be able to like so easily discount it. But as far as, you know, there being like evidence and proof, I would be a bit skeptical about that. Yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha. What is so? I guess what would be some practice? Is there any like specific practices, or I do know, I think I could be wrong. Isn't there like once a month, like they pray with rosary beads or something like that's kind of a tradition or something like that? Like what kind of practices go along with Santa Muerte?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, some people like hold masses in her honor. This has to be done like kind of like outside of Catholic Church because they don't approve of it,
Yeah.
and it's like admitted as an official like saint by any means. But people still like, let's say that you happen to find a priest that is a Catholic ordained priest, but maybe they are like open or accepting of this idea, like even if non-officially, maybe you can ask a priest to like come to your home and hold a mass in honor of Santa Muerte. I'm sure that happens. And as I said, there is no set rule book. Yeah, people do rosarios for her, but I don't know, like, I think that maybe it's like once a day. It can be once a day or 3 times a day.
Oh,
you know,
wow.
it depends on the amount of devotion and what people promise to Santa Muerte. You know, and one important thing is that you never, like with Santa Muerte, devotion to her and like being in connection with her comes very differently, like you say, from other types of, you know, practices or like belief systems, because she's considered more like a member of your family. You know, once that she's present in your life, in your house, you are expected to treat her as family. So this is why the offerings people bring her can be like money, like pour her drinks, bring her cigarettes. Some people bring her like marijuana cigarettes if they themselves like are users, food. And you are expected to like talk to her as you would talk to like a friend over drinks, you know, or over like a cup of coffee, you know. So it is a very personal and in a way informal practice. But you know, those who like do more elaborate rituals for like specific purposes, that I wouldn't know, because I would have to have like personal knowledge or involvement in that. And so far I haven't like participated in any such ceremonies or rituals. I know that there are people that do bring like maybe sacrifices, money, of course, but usually it's very, very like personal, and there is no like organism or sole authority that sanctions how to petition her or how to like work with her or like present your devotion to her. So it would be kind of like difficult to like establish, because, you know, there's a pilgrimage around like maybe once a year that some people do to this altar in Mexico City, in Tepito. I don't know I'm not sure right now. It doesn't come to mind the exact date when this happens. But I mean, yeah, people do like a big celebration there. They bring things, they bring their effigies and all of that. But it's, I don't think that it can be said that there are like specific procedures that are to be followed there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now, have you ever been to? Well, what about Day of the Dead?
Well, the thing is that Day of the Dead is not precisely like a celebration of Santa Muerte. It is connected.
Okay.
But Day of the Dead is celebrated by almost, I would say, every Mexican household in some way. That celebration has existed since pre-Hispanic times, because over here, back then, there was like the goddess was Mictlantecutli, and she had like this male counterpart also. Mictlan was a place where the souls of the dead had to like get to after dying in this world, and there was like a series of obstacles that they needed to surpass in order to reach that destination. So that's why Mictlantecutli was like worshipped, because people were like wanted safe passage for the spirits of their deceased. So from then, well, after then the conquista from the Spanish and Catholicism, it intertwines with those beliefs. And right now, I mean, it's like usually Day of the Dead is it starts the celebrations on the 1st of November, which is what we call for the little dead, like the young dead, like children who, especially those who died without being baptized, according to the Catholic Church. But in general, children and like the younger dead, start arriving on November 1st. And then November 2nd is when like the older dead arrive, and you set up this altar if you want on your homes, decorated in specific ways that still carry significance from all the way from back from pre-Hispanic times. The flowers, cempasúchil, garra de león, and these decorative elements, this papel picado, which is like paper decorated with like motifs. Then you see dead, you can see also Catholic saints right now, everything that is used to decorate. And you place, usually it's food and drink, and it used to be like actual real food, real drinks that the dead, that your loved ones who have died, that they used to enjoy when they were living. So you put that there in a corner of your home with some candles. People also, if they go like all the way, they like to create like a path with like cempasúchil flowers from the entrance leading to the altar, so that the spirits and the souls of the dead can find their way to the altar. But if not, I mean, in most businesses and homes and offices and all that, you'll find like small altars, just, with photographs, also possessions of like personal belongings of the deceased, and things like that, and commemorating them, the food and the drink. Sometimes they are replaced with like pretend food and drink, if you can't have like actual food there because of attracting flies or whatever reason, you are at least allowed to place like a simulate plate of food or things like that. And cigarettes, people like to leave that out in case their deceased relatives or friends like to smoke, drink as well. But over there, curiously, I mean, death is implicit, but I wouldn't say it's the same as like a Santa Muerte celebration. A lot of people probably like bring her out if they are believers in Santa Muerte, but if not, I mean, it can be like independent from that.
Thank you. Did you have something?
Yeah. Actually, what you just said is, to me, it's first you said it's a whole month. It's not just those 2 days, because the dates that you gave coincide with 3 major holidays. Not you have Halloween when the veil is thin, and then you have All Saints Day and All Souls Day. Mm-hmm. So I found that interesting. Mm-hmm. So it looks like no, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Here in Mexico, I mean, we do know about Halloween, and there are a lot of parties, especially Halloween themed parties, but it's not approached from like a religious point of view or in any way, or a spiritual point of view, unless you are like following those traditions. There are Wiccan witches here in Mexico, not as many as in the US or elsewhere, but there are some of them. And those people who follow those traditions will celebrate also Samhain and do something those days. But the celebration of Day of the Dead usually comprises strictly of like November 1st and November 2nd. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
I also have another one. I don't know if you addressed it earlier, but does Santa Muerte have a dedicated day for those who celebrate her, particularly like a feast day?
I seem to remember they do, but I can't remember the date. So that's why I don't want to like venture anything. But yeah, I think that once a year, there's a big celebration held in that altar in Mexico City. And people, some people who come from other places in the country or the world travel there to pay their respects on that day. I do have that because I think that there was a story on the news and they interviewed Enriqueta, who is the founder of that altar and the keeper of it. But I don't remember which date it is. So I'm not even sure if it coincides with like Day of the Dead or if it's a different day.
There is, I know there's a shrine anniversary November 1st in Tepito.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that might be what you were talking about, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I do have another question for you. Now, mostly when people deal with deities, even if they coincide with the Catholic saints, because that's usually some traditions, that's how they hide their worship for them. But have you found her in other parts of the world?
I haven't found her, but it is documented that there are Santa Muerte worshippers nearly all over the world. I have read that in several articles. And I think that there's a book that came out a few years ago by an American woman who, like, I remember because was kind of controversial when it came out because she's like white and American, and I think she's an academic, but she wrote this book about Santa Muerte, and some people were like really angry, but I think that she was really not appropriating it. It was just like she does. I think that she is a believer in Santa Muerte, but I don't think it was presented as if like she founded or she started the whole thing. So, but in that book, I believe that that's why it was published, because there's a growing interest and in all over the world for Santa Muerte, because it is unusual that in these times we're living in, that there is like a new faith that came out quite recently and also gains a lot of traction, So yeah, I mean, I think that there are a lot of people all over the world who do follow and believe in her. Not necessarily all of them like Mexicans, like who maybe are living elsewhere, but people from different nationalities.
Sorry, do they? But the name is the same. It's still Santa Muerte. They don't have like a different name for her, like.
In Guatemala, I think that they call it. There is a figure they have. I think it's San Pascual or something like that. That in practice, it's very similar. So it's kind of like likened to the Santa Muerte in many ways. And I don't know if it's in Argentina or something. They call it San La Muerte, which is like a kind of like a forced masculinization, because it's kind of like San and then La Muerte. So I don't know. I mean, in Latin America, there is that very odd phenomenon, and it's somewhat similar, but it's not as formed as it is here in Mexico, by comparison. And also, I think that some people find similarities between some of the deities in Palo Mayombe or Santeria. And while I was doing research also for this conversation, it's funny because I think that some people, because of the language barriers, they might think that Santeria is a cult of Santa Muerte, but no, I mean, Santeria is a very different thing. It's a different tradition, and it's like a whole practice with like a collection of like deities that are incorporated there. And Santa Muerte, like devotees of Santa Muerte, some people will call them santeros, but you have to then ask, are you saying you are a santero because you are a devotee of Santa Muerte, or because you are like in Santeria and a practitioner of Santeria? Because it's two different things. So that would be like the only observation that I have there. And I don't know of any other like similar practices that kind of like use like with the effigy or the likeness of Santa Muerte, but that call it differently. Those instances that I just spoke about are the only ones that I can recall and say that, okay, maybe this or that. But to my knowledge, it has not like been, because she is like a syncretic version of, as I mentioned, like the Virgin figure, but in some ways it looks like her, but it's like, it's not like it's just like the skeleton with these robes, and it's approached in the same way as people would approach a saint, a Catholic saint, but she's not a recognized like Catholic saint, of course. So yeah, I mean, I don't think that it's like, that it exists as it is in other countries or like mythologies or practices.
Thank you for clearing that up, because I actually made that mistake. I actually thought that she was part of Santeria, right? So
not,
actually,
yeah, it's different. Yeah.
I had a question and I forgot again. Oh, I think, I mean, I remember now, but I think you pretty much covered it, and I would assume it's probably not really as I was going to ask, is there other maybe goddesses that you could see maybe having a little bit of her attributes? But I mean, I think that's kind of Mary, you said before, but besides Mary, would there be anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, I am not an authority, but I think that in many cultures, like in Europe and in the Americas, and even in like the East, you may have like a lot of like deities or like entities that kind of like symbolize death. But I don't know if we could talk about like the same level of worship or the same popularity, because these are of course tied to like also ethnicity in many instances. So the thing that is different about Santa Muerte is that she's very like open and welcoming. So because it doesn't have like that ethnic and cultural loathe, if you want to view it like that. So yeah, I mean, I don't think that in that sense I could like compare her with like actual like goddesses or gods of like death and such things in other cultures. I mean, you can maybe find like that common root, which is of course, you know, the life force behind all of them, but they are approached in extremely different ways, and some of them are like not traditions that are alive. They are maybe some of them still are, but it's like very closed, because as I said, it's very linked to, you know, ethnicity and time and place, you know, the location is important and such things. So in that sense, it would be too different from, you know, Santa Muerte. I'm sure that in India, there are several deities that can be likened to Santa Muerte in some aspects. But yeah, I mean, that would be kind of like a good opportunity for someone like to do a comparative mythology study or comparative theology in that sense, because I mean, it's by no means is it the only instance of like the divinization of death. It's like just maybe the most recent and the most popular iteration, especially nowadays.
Thank you. Judah, do you have anything you want to ask?
Yeah, I wanted to, because since you said she's not associated with Santeria, she's not associated with any religious structure at all.
She stemmed in that sense from the Catholic tradition. So you will find, the figure itself physically has a lot of blatant similarities with the way that saints are portrayed in Catholic churches. And people will do novenas, pray rosaries, do certain Catholic prayers towards her. But there is no structure, because that's an interesting thing. And I'm glad that you asked this. There have been attempts from the believers themselves or the leaders of these cults to Santa Muerte to kind of like regulate it. Before, the government, for example, here in Mexico, like make it like an accepted religion, for people to enter onto their documents. What religion are you? Santa Muerte devotee. But it lasted for like 2 or 3 years, I think in the early 2000s or something. But then the government found irregularities with the issue is that the people trying to make her official later turned out to be like actual criminals, doing things that were above the law. So of course that brings the whole thing down. And that's one thing that I found very meaningful while I was researching for our conversation, because it turns out that you cannot or should not, because nobody tells you what you can or cannot do, because again, there is no structure, to follow. But it is not well seen or like accepted to kind of go to her and ask her, I want you to kill this person or get rid of this person because like they're in my way or whatever, you have to ask her for things that are just and kind of like fair, and not like she's not a hitman, So some things you can ask her, for protection, for like success and abundance, and that way she can help you if your heart is like pure in that intention and you're being straightforward with her. And respecting her in the way that you should, she can help you attain those things, but not by kind of like saying, getting rid of obstacles in this brutal way so that you can profit off it. I mean, some people very likely have done this. And then in the end, of course, these things never turn out well, which when I was reading about all those, there have been 2 or 3 attempts by different people to kind of like make her like an established government acknowledged faith or cult. And they have never kind of like succeeded because they have, they haven't had the best intentions. So I found that like very meaningful, that you can, of course, ask her for support for whichever you need support with, particularly with, protection and health or having a peaceful death, which came up a lot in my research. But you cannot like ask her to, like, it's not contrary to what is on popular media and on the news. She's not, I wouldn't categorize her as like a baneful type of cult or baneful work. I'm sure people do baneful work on her behalf or under her, but inherently it was not it wasn't like, it didn't originate with those intentions. I found that it was like very benevolent. And even, that story about the witch who first saw her in Catemaco, Veracruz, this witch Mateo, for his whole adult life, after the first time he like witnessed this apparition, he devoted himself to her, and he reached an old age. And when it was time for him to die, he saw her again, but this time he said that he saw like a little girl dressed in white. And she kind of basically came and told him that she wanted to thank him for everything he had done, to get her to others who could need her help and such. And that was the last time he saw her. So to me, it was meaningful that the first time he saw her, or she didn't it was not during a baneful ritual, and it was a message about, offering help and comfort and protection to people, not like as like an avenger or like something that was more violent. And in the end, at the end of his life, well, he saw like basically a child dressed in white, which is also, I think, one of the most positive images that you can associate with any like spiritual presence of any sort. So I think that I'm not saying that people do not use or try to use Santa Muerte to kind of like do other types of ritual work that is more baneful, but the origins of it are like very far from that, as far as I have researched.
Oh, it sounds, she's very unique, and I could see how the misunderstanding could come on how people view her outside of the culture. Because I'm outside looking in, out here in the Western world, and most deities you mentioned are either associated with either an organization or a pantheon, but she's something by herself. There is no, she didn't come down and lay down the law. And you even said it, which is something people try to emulate. But with her, to have a relationship with her, you have to actually have a friendship. You have to actually have a relationship, which is completely different. And I think, unfortunately, this is where a lot of the misunderstanding comes, because if you came to me and I didn't know about anything like this, and you say you pray to Santa Muerta, first, I would think you were dealing with Santeria. Second, I would think that she came from Catholicism, which she did not. So it's not even associated. She's a manifestation of help. If I misspeak, please forgive me. From this point of view, for those who are needy, I would say, in my opinion, I think she comes more from the Native American side of the indigenous people of Mexico. And that's why we in the Western world might have a problem understanding her completely and mislabeling her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, to me, like as a Mexican of the like 20th, 21st century, she is very syncretic, because a lot of her visually reminds me of Catholicism. But when you dig deeper, you find nothing of that, and you find other things. So it's kind of like a perfect blend for me. Personally, it's kind of like if the image of the Virgen de Guadalupe was deprived and cleansed from all of that charge of colonialism, then you would have Santa Muerte, for me. But I don't think like if you go to the average like Mexican Santa Muerte devotee, they won't say that. They will just tell you that they love her and that she has been with them through the worst moments of their lives, and that she has helped them do this and this or that, or solve this and this and that problem. And it's very, very personal. So it's like a relationship with your own mother in a way. But it's not like a deity of the divine feminine. It's like a lot more universal. So it's very it takes a lot to understand from someone looking from the outside, and even for me, I mean, I would have to dive deeper into her lore and the practices and that sort of thing. I am somewhat close because someone I am like very close with and someone that I love very, very much is kind of like a devotee in her own way of Santa Muerte. So I have seen firsthand that relationship develop, and it's very organic and it's very unique, and it's very not demanding in the way that so many other deities or saints are. It's very different. So yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the reasons why it's worship and its cult is expanding so rapidly. And I think that given the times we're living, it will expand even more. She protects outsiders, which means that she protects immigrants, and she is on the side of usually justice, not because she is personally invested in one side or the other, but because death comes for us all. So you cannot have favorites in that sense. So I think that it just echoes a lot on the circumstances that so many of us are going through right now. So I expect to see her take a lot more protagonism in the coming decades even.
That was a really good question, Judith. And I wasn't really looking at it from that angle, but that is a really good point. It's almost as if, yeah, very interesting. Yeah. One thing I did want to ask and kind of bring up, it's kind of going back a little bit before, but I mean, I think we kind of talked on it a little bit already. But would you think maybe due to, I guess maybe criminal activity, cartels, or even how pop culture will associate it with it? I mean, I'm just going to put it out there, a little bit more conspiracy theory, but there's even been times we've covered like cartels or supposedly cults that were killing people, and it's just like, did you throw the Santa Muerte on there just to, whatever? I don't know. It was not really an issue, because then you find out the CIA was behind it. So like, you got to wonder about the whole storyline. You know what I'm saying? You throwing Santa Muerte in there to look like, oh, these are some psychos, but this is really hits. You have no idea. So, do you think all due to that, there is a misconception too about even, that it's not all negative? Because, from the whole time we've been on the show, I mean, it sounds a little bit different from probably people's idea, just due to that.
Yeah, yes, I think so. I think that I have a very particular and maybe it's controversial position when it comes to like what has been taught to us about what's good and what's bad.
Yeah.
I think that it's not possible to separate the two. You always find both things mixed because it's life. I mean, even like in a single person, you find like all of these things that are like these glimmers of good, and then there's bad, and we are never like 100% evil 100% of the time, I think, because then we would not be humans, we would be something else.
Yeah.
The same with the good, but carteles are of course a reality, and they've done a lot of harm. But, governments also do a lot of harm. And the everyday person, who may not be seen like as a criminal on the same level as a cartel member, but they also do like a lot of harm in other ways, So, yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me on one hand if cartel members, particularly those that are like on the front lines, go to Santa Muerte for protection, because like it's very dangerous. Yeah. But I don't know like the motivations behind each one of them and their actions. What I do know is that, well, they may have, pendant, t-shirts, tattoos depicting Santa Muerte, but that's one thing. And the other thing is like, the choices you make and the actions you carry out. And as I said, from my research, is that because Santa Muerte is kind of like, it would be akin to maybe somebody praying to Mother Nature for protection, or like, it's one thing to do that, and another to pray to Mother Nature for I wish that so and so would get struck by lightning or died in an earthquake because they are on my way. If you do that kind of thing, you are likely not going to get what you want, at least not in the way that you expect. So what we see with the carteles is that, of course, there's always violence and like chaos and death and things like that are in it's the very nature of the business. So I think that it's because maybe they themselves feel like they are so far outside of society, there's nobody they could turn to, because like maybe they see themselves as beyond even the understanding of Virgen de Guadalupe, the Virgin Mary. So of course they are going to turn to the next mother figure that they can think of, and because she happens to be scary looking for so many people, they're like, okay, this is kind of like my match. But I would wonder if it's not more of a thing about the iconography just being very fitting with the idea of, oh yes, I bring death because I kill a lot of people and my business is death, and therefore Santa Muerte is my patron. It might be something as like simple as that for them, because I don't see such a type of individual being able to have like a serious practice, a serious like routine to pay their respects and to cultivate a true relationship with Santa Muerte or with any deity in their circumstances. And I mean, there's little time to even think about that. And there's not enough like peace of mind to even find that space within their own spirits to have that kind of relationship. So yeah, I mean, of course, it's a natural fit from like the aesthetic aspect, and therefore it's become very conflated with like these negative tones and intents. But if you take your time to really look into it, I think that you come to this conclusion, that it's not inherently like evil. Will there be people that have bad intentions who turn to her for the wrong reasons? Yeah. But it's not that's always the case. And the same should happen, for people who are very like Catholic or evangelical Christians, and they are very devout. But then you go and even though the association that we have from the outside is very positive, but that's where usually you find the most evil intentions, ironically, So it's kind of like you have to have those two sides present at all times when it comes to discussing these things. Yeah.
I like that. That was awesomely said. Thank you very much, Jerry. What do you got, Judith?
I do have another question. Because of her uniqueness, would you think that she's like almost a form of ancestral worship? Like there was like some traditions, I don't know in Santeria, in Voodoo, usually some people say the spirits that people worship were once alive, was once human beings. So do you think she was either a person who once walked the earth, or is she just a complete entity that came out of the ether?
I don't think she was ever a person. It's just this phenomenon, this energy, this life that has always been here, like life and death. They are eternal. They, as far as we exist and the planet exists, I mean, it all had to start at some point, and it will finish at some point. So it's kind of like beyond that scope. it's that energy, that drive that we cannot possibly like comprehend. So our human brain finds ways to put that into a terms that we can comprehend. So for me, it's one of such scenarios, the anthropomorphization of this event or this energy.
That's awesome. Yeah. That was exactly what I was thinking. It's almost like an archetype of like one snippet in like in a story.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, nice. Was there anything else that you wanted to ask Judith? Or you had any questions or ideas?
For now, I don't have any more questions. I do have to say, you have enlightened me completely and have dispersed any misconceptions I've had about Santa Marta. And it kind of saddens me that we don't get to, it's not our here in the Western world to build that relationship, but how it's been, how can I say, she's gotten a bad rap due to the misinformation, misuse, and misconception. So I've gained a lot of respect, a lot of respect.
Well, that makes me happy.
Yeah, very different idea when you start looking into it than what you're typically used to hearing about. That's why I had brought that up, because like, like I think like maybe something what you're trying to get at too, like if she's associated with death, I mean, that just encapsulates so many things that could fall under that. Unfortunately, you could die from a heart attack or you could have been tortured to death. So when you hear of like a cartel or, these people doing this stuff and that name pops up and they're killing people, I think a lot of people just automatically think it has to do with, they're using this person so they can kill these people and get away with it and summon their spirit and feed so-and-so. All these, crazy ideas people get with this stuff that have no idea anything about it. I think that gave it a bad rap, and it's just there's a whole other side, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's important, especially, post-pandemic in Mexico. I think that a lot of people found her during the pandemic.
I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, and you would think, but it's death that is bringing all of this illness. And no. It's just like these things have happened every few years in the world, unfortunately. But if there's a way, if there's a figure, an energy that can offer you some comfort, some dignity, and some peace in dying, who wouldn't take it? Especially in those moments for those people who were not able to be with their loved ones when they passed. So it's very understandable to me that now there's kind of like been not a resurgence per se, but just like a very strong push for it, as a different type of faith.
I do have, because I might be remembering this wrong. When we were talking about your book, you were saying that she was the motivation behind your work. Correct? So in a way you're showing her in the proper light to the world, actually.
There were some things that happened right after I handed the manuscript draft, that I won't share fully here, but there is something that, I mean, I'm not a Santa Muerte devotee, but I did at one point have a dialogue with her due to a personal situation that a loved one was going through. And it's very meaningful that you brought that up now, because that was one of the things that went in my mind when I was having this dialogue with Santa Muerte, in that sense, that my practice is not like centered in her, but she's been kind of like around me for several years, near me. And after this, I thought, well, I think that I need to do something to discuss, to start talking more about what I'm not going to be arrogant and say what she really is or what she really stands for, but basically have a more like a wider and more realistic, less sensationalist perspective uh, about what Santa Muerte means for so many people. Because it's nowhere near what is shown on media. So I think that I'm really appreciative of this opportunity, and I'll definitely be doing some more research and hopefully some writing about her at one point. Yeah.
Awesome. I look forward to it. I think for myself, I think I'm pretty much out of questions or whatever. Again, it was a topic I don't know much about at all, so that was great for me. Is there anything you wanted to ask Judith before we wrap it up, or anything else?
No, I'm good.
All right, awesome. No, thank you. Cherry, was there anything you wanted to add, or anything else that you left out, or
Not right now, but
Okay.
just really this conversation always. I'm so happy, and I'm so excited that you guys have my book.
Yes.
Look to receiving like comments, even if like all types of feedback, you guys. Yeah, I'm serious.
Awesome. Good. All right. So yeah, I guess we can wrap it up here. Awesome show. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Again, that was just tons of information that I knew nothing of prior. Judith, thank you so much. Great questions. I really appreciate it. Cherry, Judith, before we wrap it up, let everybody know what's up with you and where they can find your show.
First of all, thank you, Sherry, for coming again. Hopefully, you'll be back again.
Yeah.
I'm hoping.
That was
hoping.
Fun. Yeah.
I will.
You actually cleared up a lot of myths, and I see her in a brand new light now. So thank you again for that. Thank you, Nick, for having me on.
Yeah.
And you could find me on YouTube and on X as the Loon. I do weekly brunch, and I also do buddy check once a month. And thank you again, Cherry and Nick.
No, thank you. And Cherry, please let everybody know what's up with you and where they can find your book.
Oh, thank you. Well, you can find me at cherryred_tarot on Instagram and Threads. I have my links there to buy my book. My book can be bought like pretty much anywhere books are sold. I have links in those profiles as well. My books are open for tarot readings if you want. And I'm really appreciate Judith, Nick, that you had me here again. It was so amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm always happy to say hi. So holler wherever.
Yeah. No, it was great. I'm really, really glad we had you back on. It was a pleasure both times. Again, if people didn't hear the first time, go check it out. She came on for the Left-Hand Path of Tarot. Yes, go check that out. Awesome show. And hopefully we'll get you on again for something else or, whatever. We'll see what we can do. But yeah, thank you. And that's the end of another Occult Rejects. And until the next one, everybody be well. Later.